All right. Hello again. Another quick kind of informal update to let you know how it's going. Um, Everything's on schedule, ahead of schedule, really. Tarot cards are coming along fine. If you're in a rush, there it is. So everything's good. If you're not in a rush, take a look at our next portrait. Let's see here. Okay. So this next one is near and dear to my heart. Now, when I was around 15, I got the chance to study Chinese martial arts, and that was kind of my first love when it came to schools of swordsmanship. And then later on, after I kind of graduated from that place, I started looking at Western sword stuff to kind of see how different cultures solve the problems differently. And that was mostly kind of like looking through sources and researching in like, during my master's as far as like an academic setting versus like, you know, going to a school specifically for it. So my line of teachers in the Chinese section, this swordswoman portrait is kind of connected to that. So like I said, this one is near and dear to my heart. Take a look. I'll show you some of the historic photos before we look at the actual portrait. So here you can kind of see Jing was a kind of important note in Kung Fu schools here. And this guy, Lo Kuang Yu, this is a photo of him when he's younger. Most of the photos you'll see are when he's older and lost all his hair. But this is generation 6 in my line of teachers, and I'm generation 10. So this is back in the day. And he taught sword, he taught, MTN stuff, etc. But one of the teachers at this school who taught alongside him congruently at the same time, Chen Shichao. And she was someone who began exercising because she had these like irregular heart rhythms. She'd feel like faint and fluttery. She tried Eastern medicine, she tried Western medicine, and nothing really seemed to help her. But then she started training and exercising, and she said after like about 6 months, she felt totally kind of fine, like her symptoms were alleviated. So that's kind of her story coming into this. And then she began training so much, she became a teacher at Jing. And I've always wished we knew more about her, but because we do have some of these people, we only have like one photo of. We actually have maybe 20 photos of her. Like, we're lucky in that because she was so active in the school, her time there was well documented, and so we're kind of lucky to know what she actually was doing there. So let's take a look at some of these pictures. Here she is listed out in the book, their 10-year anniversary book, Jing Wu's 10-year anniversary book. And I just thought it was interesting because you can tell she's at the top. You can see my phone recording there. You can tell she's at the top, listed kind of above all these men. So this is the teaching staff, a picture of the teaching staff. And so I thought that was kind of interesting, especially for 1911 China. This would be 1919. The school, Jing was founded like 1909, 1910, 1911. But there she is, kind of listed above all these men. So pretty interesting. Apparently, Brian Kennedy, who's sadly no longer with us, but he wrote this book, Jing, The School That Transformed China. In fact, I have it here. Let's see. And Elizabeth Go. He was adamant that Jing look, pictures of the school. He was adamant that Jing put the women's curriculum and program and everything on equal footing as the men. He repeats that point over and over again. It wasn't just window dressing. Look, there she is right there, Chen Shichao. We're going to look at that picture. You can see the sword stuff, calisthenics, stretching, strength training. It wasn't just window dressing. It was like, no, these people are going to be training alongside. And there's pictures of people doing piano in here, calligraphy. See, here's a piano picture. I mean, that's kind of what Ravenswood was mimicking and echoing. That's one of our inspirations, because we do piano, but also martial arts, but also cards, etc. So there's definitely some inspiration taken from, one of my teacher's old stomping grounds. So let's take a look and see. Here's some women giving a demonstration. Kind of like a sword demonstration. You can see in front of all the people. Jing would have these public performances, and people would show off their skills, the women and the men, and the children too, to raise funds, etc. This is a beautiful, epic picture of Chen Shichao. Did I say her name before this? Hopefully I did. Sorry. Chen Shichao. She's on the left there with the sword raised, and you can see her hand kind of opened. You open the hand so you can squeeze and like leverage the sword down. She's brushing aside her opponent's spear. Aren't these uniforms just so cool? So classic, kind of. I'm not exactly sure what you would call those kind of poofy pants. In Texas, I guess you would call them culottes. I don't know what the Chinese version is, but those white jackets, so cool. Here's a picture of some of her students training. They're doing empty hand stuff. They're doing calisthenics. They're doing exercises. Now, there are several photos of her teaching groups. I just picked one, but you can see Chen Shichao over there to the, I guess that'd be your right, teaching these people. You see the beautiful architecture in the background. And she would go, so she taught at Jingwu, but she would go around to different women's schools, like women's high schools or women's kind of unions or groups of people, and she would train them as part of her job. And she was big on getting women to exercise. She wrote essays about this, and she wanted to kind of strengthen everyone up. That was part of the Republican era rhetoric at the time. China was really trying to get everyone fit and healthy. Part of that was just trying to get all the citizens ready for war, because they were so paranoid that they were going to be invaded again. Another part of that is, aside from like the nationalism necessarily, just they wanted everyone to be freaking healthy, and they wanted people to exercise. So that's kind of a nice thing. She was definitely prolonging some lifespans with exercise. Now, this is a Jingwu group of women, but this isn't the branch where Chen Shichao taught. This is actually in Hong Kong, where another one of my teachers, Wang Hanfan, Generation 7, ended up. But even though it's not directly her students, I thought it was kind of a nice representation of the outfits, or uniforms, I should say. I'll zoom in a little. This picture is not bad, given the time. So you can see the outfit goes over to the side and buttons. That's the men's buttoned straight down the front, the women's buttoned over to the side. That's just kind of how Chinese fashion worked. Here's a nice picture of Chen Shichao playing. Well, the Japanese word for it is go. With the I guess you would call them beads. I don't play Go, so I don't know what the term is, but the white beads and the black beads, kind of like the Chinese version of chess, the Japanese version of chess. I don't really know what a good analogy would be for comparing that, but if you know the name, you know what I'm talking about. Actually, the Chinese name is Wei Qi, I think. So there she is playing there, and you can see her holding the bowl with the pieces in it. And I always got the impression from some of the pictures here that she was smaller. I don't know if that was part of her genetics, kind of like being weak and sickly. But like you can tell she's smaller than the other woman she's playing against. And then I have one picture of her standing next to some instructors, and she's the same height as them, but then you look at her feet and she's on like a big step. So I think she was maybe on the shorter side. Now here's a cool picture of Jing. And it was a martial school, but it was also kind of a fine arts academy as well. The you could see all the weapons hanging in the background, and she is, let me see here. I believe she's in there somewhere. She might not be in that exact one, but she helped with the calligraphy class. And this next picture, I know she's at the head of the table. This is kind of a close up of that setting. Her teaching calligraphy class. She was maybe like an assistant instructor in that class. I don't think she was like the head, but she was like helping facilitate. And there she is. And there are some kind of examples, some photographed examples of her calligraphy. Jing was very, very good at documenting everything. And they have lists of when all these people joined. So you could comb through their list of names and you could see when exactly she joined, what year, etc. But anyways, swords instructor, very nice. So do you want to see the portrait? Let's take a look. So white uniforms. Let's see, you can see her face, right? This is this portrait is what we use for the face, her hair, the shape of her face, etc. And then of course we put her in this white uniform. So here she is in all her glory. Let's take a look. We made it kind of like a formal posture, like someone posing in the 1800s, but also we made the hair just a little messy, like she just got done demonstrating a form or something. There's her white jacket, the buttons off to the side. They're kind of like little cloth things that hook around loops. They're not actual buttons. And then this is a real sword. If you haven't seen it, it almost kind of looks fantastical or something, but these are hook swords. You can Google hook swords and you can see lots of examples, some in museums. This was based off of an antique example I got to see, this particular hook sword in Leeds. And then the qualities associated with her when the card's upright: skill, diplomacy, confidence. I couldn't think of some better things associated with Chen Shichao. So it's cool to think about her training alongside Lo Kuang-yu, one of my sword teachers in my lineage, and wondering what kind of conversations they must have had, maybe exchanging some technique. I don't know. I mean, yes, this was early 1900s China, and I think at that time period, I don't think women were really allowed to travel alone, depending on your social class. And then foot binding was still a thing, obviously. There was still tons and tons of issues. But again, like Brian Kennedy and others seem to indicate that this women's program was taken really seriously. And Chen Shichao writes about how she and the others, the women that she taught, they trained and trained and trained day and night and in the rain and everything until all the guys were like, oh dang, these people aren't weak at all. I've had that experience myself. When my brother Simon was throwing me around grappling a lot, I would go with Melody, one of our in fact, Melody is in Japan, and Japan is going to be our next portrait card. Anyways, I'll spare you this whole thing, but basically I was training with a shorter, slighter woman grappling, and whenever I would train, there would be these moments where I would, she could point out a little detail in the move that I had forgotten, or she could pull off a move and I was like, oh shoot, that reminds me I need to work on that move. So kind of reminded me of Lo Kuang-yu and Chen Shichao, maybe trading notes, maybe working together, because whether someone's smaller or bigger, it's like they have their own perspective and their own experience, and so they can point out things you might have forgotten, or they have a experience you might not have had, or whatever. I could talk forever about the history, about training, those kinds of things, but I'll leave you with this. Obviously, there's her card. And then to this day, if you go um, and you go overseas to China, there's a statue commemorating her, Chen Shichao. Doesn't have her on a Wikipedia page, like maybe 4 or 5 of these women don't that we're highlighting, but maybe they will eventually. If you edit Wikipedia, whoever writes those articles, put in an article for Chen Shichao. Why not? But for now, we're highlighting her. There's her statue. You can see. Yeah. So cheers to you all. Thank you so much. Thanks for sponsoring this card, because I think our artist just nailed it. Such a beautiful design, so kind of like elegant and noble, but there's some ferocity there because like she's about to start waving that thing around. Like I said, I'll try not to turn this into too much of a history lecture, but there's even more photos of her. I'm pretty, I mean, life can get in the way of things sometimes, but I'm pretty sure that I want to do kind of a huge like book on all these different women and kind of just do it chapter by chapter. And getting to include more of those photos would be awesome. But speaking of books, the little booklet, I ordered a sample. I want to check and make sure the quality is good. I also want something physical in front of me to kind of make sure that there are no mistakes or no misprints, but also too, I want to check the quality. I'll never forget, I had a book in college, and I was getting ready to open it up for like day 1 of the seminar or whatever, and it just fell apart. I was like, what? Really? It's so expensive, and I can't, it has one job to stay together and let me read it, and it doesn't even do that. I think it was actually a meal by Rousseau, so I wasn't that disappointed it fell apart. Anyways, let's see. I guess that's it for the update. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. And yeah, if there's anything else, I'll let you know. But other than that, we're moving right along, and enjoy as the portraits keep being revealed. Thank you. Have a good one.